Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. And I am your host, Maria Gonçalves. And today we have a special guest, Carolina. Hello, and welcome, Carolina.
Hi, Maria. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, I'm going to let you guys know a little bit about Carolina. She is a medium that has been hearing spirit since the age of 4 years old. Carolina believes in living a grounded life that is led by spirit, and she guides her clients and business owners alike on the importance of intuition first, challenging you to think about work and life from the inside out. I love that. And I will have all of her social media posts, her website. And just so you guys know, her website is Curandera.ca, and she offers workshops, products, and services. So, welcome, Carolina.
Great to be here, Maria. I'm excited. I love it when two mediums get together and just gabble. Let's see what comes out, right?
Absolutely. And we were actually just chit chatting beforehand, and we were talking about how we met with Redfern events a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while now, actually. Maria is a staple at many of the events that I attend on a regular basis. So it's like we always, even if it's a super busy show, it's always kind of like a nod of acknowledgement. Hey, how you doing?
It is. It's like, oh my God, there's my friend. I always look for you. Like, where is she? Is she here? And you're
Yeah,
always there. I love it. I love it. And people
yeah,
expect us
yeah.
to be there, which is always amazing. So I wanted to ask you because
Yeah,
your
definitely not
website,
complaining. Love that.
yes, your website is Curenda.ca.
It's curandera, curandera,
Curandera. Oh, Curandera. What language is that? Is that Portuguese, Spanish?
Spanish.
And does that
Spanish, but
mean
a lot of
something?
Portuguese people come to me. Yeah, it means it's the female of healer, of spiritual healer in Spanish, and it comes from a tradition known as curanderismo, and it's a tradition practiced throughout Latin America, and it's a beautiful tradition that, depending on the region that you're in, you're going to get a different flavor of it because of the kind of the immigration of the region, the transatlantic slave trade that brought a lot of their wisdom practices with them, mixed in with the First Nations cultures that existed there prior to colonization. So it is a unique blend that brings the spiritual traditions of all these people together in order to create a practice that is a combination of folk healer, a combination of spirit intermediary, a combination of um, psychosocial and emotional support of the area that you live in. And so it's very common, if you're in a small village, they're going to have one. If you're in the big city, they're going to have one. Anybody that's from the culture that reads that name knows exactly what that means.
Now you have me wondering how we say it in Portuguese.
So I have a lot of Portuguese clients that immediately recognize the name, and they've said that's how they say it in Portuguese as well. And I've had Italian clients tell me that seems to mean something very similar for them as well. So
And now you just reminded me of myself growing up in a tiny Portuguese village. We always had a healer. We always had somebody that knew how to do everything. And when you were sick, you would just go to them. And the healer in our little village was my mom's cousin. We'd just go to her and be like, we're not feeling well. She's like, you need this herb, that herb, this over here. And then if some of us needed like injections, like from the doctors and stuff, and we were too scared to do the injection, we didn't know what we were doing. She'd just be like, I got you. I'll come over. You have the needles. I'll put the medicine. I'll give it to you. Don't worry. Do this, do that. And she was brought up, so was my mom, but I think she just remembered more. So everybody went to her, and that was the way we
yeah,
grew up back in the village.
it's the medicine woman tradition, right? There's always kind of that person that understands that on a very innate, almost primal level, right?
Yeah, because you live off the land.
Yeah. And what nature can teach you, right? What nature teaches us that we all hold within ourselves as well.
That is so true. Because now I'm remembering stories my mom would share with us about the grandparents and look at the moon, and the moon is saying this, and the moon, and my mom has shared that she has forgotten a lot of that stuff. She's like, oh, but when we grew up, we would just look at the moon. We knew everything. We knew how the weather was going to be. We knew how to harvest the plants, depending on what the moon looked like, depending on the color of the sky. And she used to talk about how her parents, which makes sense. We're master farmers, but I feel like everybody was a master farmer in the village, and medicine women and medicine man, because you lived off the village. A doctor's very, very far away. So
Yeah.
we had to take care of our own. But that's really cool. I love that name. That's such a cool name. So I am curious because
Well, for me, sorry,
no, go,
go ahead.
go.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, for me, the name is very important because as much as I'm a medium and I provide readings, which I absolutely do, it's a good chunk of my business. There's always a healing component to my readings, right? I'm not kind of the ideal psychic for a party. Let's put it that way, right? Because the stuff that comes up is very much about, moving forward in your life and kind of identifying what's stuck or what is holding you back, right? And so I always say people that want to kind of book me, I'll do like family events, right? If there's the anniversary of a departed loved one or something. But I'm like, for a party, people tend to cry with me. So I don't want to like shift the mood of your gathering, right? I know some psychics are really great at kind of keeping that giggling alive. And there's a lot of like joy and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's there, but there's also going to be the stuff that spirit's kind of like, hey, look at this. You're kind of avoiding this, and this is important to address in your life right now.
Absolutely. So, can you share what was it like hearing spirit at such a young age? Like, how did your family react around you? Were they supportive? Was it just like, hey, everybody hears spirit, not a big deal? Like, what was it like?
So I absolutely did not grow up in a family that would have encouraged this. I never spoke about it. Actually, I thought everybody heard the voices that I heard. And I can still distinctly remember the very first time where I could identify that as a separate voice, right? Um, but yeah, I genuinely thought that everybody was having the exact same experience that I was. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s, I was doing a workshop. I was learning hypnosis, and there was a medium in my workshop, and she was learning hypnosis along with me. And when we all went out to lunch, everyone was like, do a little reading on me. And, like, what did they say about me? And she comes up to it was my turn, and she's like, honey, you're more intuitive than I am. You really need to start to pay attention to what these stories that are being made up in your head are. And I was like, what? And she's like, this is intrinsically tied to what you have to do in your life. And you need to really pay attention. Right. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, so, and at the table, I'm like, so everybody doesn't hear this. And people are like, what? No, what are you talking about? And so, you know, it's almost like when you get that little drop of information that ties all of your life experiences to that moment, they all make sense all of a sudden. And you're like, oh my God, how could I have not realized this? Right. So, yeah, it was really interesting, to be honest with you, because events would happen. I would say things to people. Like I remember, I used to have a big elevator ride in the morning. I lived in a very tall building. Or if I was waiting for the bus, and I would just have a conversation with this random stranger that I didn't know. And within 2 minutes, they'd start to cry. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Why do I do this to people? I genuinely didn't understand what was happening, right? I understand now, but it was just a very odd thing to not have that, to have this going on and not have that wisdom of being able to make sense of what's going on in your life.
Oh, so what was it like in high school having that ability? Did it just heighten more or?
Yeah, definitely. And I never understood why I would intimidate people. because I don't think I'm very intimidating physically. You tell me, because we
No.
see each other all the time. I don't think that's the case, but it would, the minute that I would open my mouth and just say these random things that were just popping in my head, um, people would be kind of like, I'd get these very odd reactions. And I remember one time somebody had introduced me to somebody over the phone, and I'd never seen this person. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to this festival." And I was like, "Okay." And it was down by Ontario Place, if it's still called that or whatever. It's going to change too soon. But it's for those that are not here in the GTA. It's this kind of theme park that is right by the lake. And so there's like different events. It was an outdoor concert or festival. And there was at least 10,000 people, like at least, right? The Harbor or Ontario Place is really large. And I picked him out of the crowd. I still laugh about it now, right? And I was like, "Hey, are you so and so?" And his eyes just widened, and he's like, "How the hell did you know that was me?" Right? And a minute later, his friend turns around to him and he's like, "You stay away from that girl. She's a witch." Right? There's no way that you can that someone can do that, right? I was a waitress. I remember this one group that I was serving. Somebody, they're like, "If you guess my sign, my astrological sign, I'll give you an extra tip." I didn't know. I just said the first thing that popped in my head. The guy went pale because I said his appropriate one, right? And the whole table went, "Ah," and they're like, "Do it again." Of course, I couldn't do it again. I didn't know it was what I was doing. Um, but, my life is sprinkled prior to understanding what this was with all these instances of where my gift was showing up. And I had no idea that my gift was showing up.
That is amazing. I do find, I don't know about you, but for me, as my mediumship was getting stronger, the friend group disappeared. And then a new friend group emerged because that first friend group, they were scared of me. It's like, oh my God, she's a witch. She can read minds. She could. I was like, what am I going to do? She's going to put a spell on us. She's going to do this stuff. And I would just be like, oh, girl, if I had that kind of power, I don't do stuff like I
Yeah.
don't know what,
Yeah.
but people would imagine things inside their head. I don't know why. Maybe too much Hollywood
Yeah.
movies, to be quite honest. And then it was just like I was no longer aligned with those people. And that's okay. And then, they're off in their friend groups, and then a new friend group emerge. And I find every couple of years, it kind of like disappears and then new ones come in. So do you find that for you too?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that being my friend is not for the faint of heart. My husband says that too. He doesn't get away with much. It's hard to surprise me. It's hard for me to not, as mediums, we read energy really well. Whether we're doing it on purpose for a client or not, it's just, it's something that is innately there. And so the level of authenticity and honesty that requires a person to have in their life is not very comfortable for a lot of people, right? Because we live in a world full of facades, and we live in a world where we're all trying to appear a certain way and hide certain things, um, whether it's because of societal pressures or our own inability to kind of look inwards and be honest. And I don't say this as kind of like I'm an elitist and like I'm looking down on people. No, not at all. But if something's wrong, I'm going to know something's wrong. And if I give you a call and I can hear it in your voice, I'm like, something's wrong. And you're like, no, nothing's wrong. And I'm like, no, something's wrong. What's going on? It's just something that a lot of people aren't used to. Right. Um, and yeah, I would definitely say the spiritual path is a lonely path, and no one talks about that either. Right. It's
Yeah.
something that it's an experience that we all share, I think, when you're on this path, but it's a very personal experience that only we understand because it's unique to everybody. And the confirmations that we receive, the synchronicities, the way that life has this beautiful, magical, and quirky way of saying, yo, I'm here, spirit's here,
Yes.
spirit's everywhere. Um, it can be challenging for people to understand that, right?
Yes, yes. I know for me, we were talking about a spirit-led life, and where I was sharing with a friend a few months ago, I feel like I'm gonna go away in the month of June. She's like, where are you going? I don't know. How long are you going for? I don't know. But it's just that feeling. And then when she checked in with me last week, it's like, did you book your trip? No, I need to get that feeling. And then yesterday I got the feeling and it's like, okay. And then interesting enough, I looked at my calendar and everything is clear for next week. So it's like, oh my goodness, I have nothing to do next week. And I was like, okay, spirit, that's the week we go. But I was already feeling it. Like last month or 2 months ago, I was already getting that feeling. So trusting that spirit led life. Because I find when I don't trust and I'm like, yeah, 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 I'm getting the message, but I ignore it, it never works out in my favor.
Spirit's the most annoying project manager around because everything's organized. There's an absolute order in that chaos, but you aren't necessarily given the entire picture, right? So you know something's up. You got to trust those breadcrumbs. But yeah, it's it's always learning, right? Always
I
learning.
I was comparing it yesterday. I was talking to somebody, and I was like, I feel like our life is like a maze. Like we're in the maze at the bottom, and Spirit is on the second floor looking down, knows exactly where the maze is gonna go, what walls we're gonna bump into, all of that. And we're just in it, trusting, not knowing how we're gonna get out of the maze. Eventually, we do get out of the maze, so we get to where we need to go. But yes,
And all you get from your guide says colder, cold, cold, hot, hot, hotter, hotter. Like that's kind of and I tell people all the time, just because I'm a psychic and I can help people in readings and I can see things in their lives, that's not necessarily the case for myself, right? I'm in the struggle just as much as you guys are, right? And I need that help when things come up in my life as well.
oh, I go for readings all the time. It's a good thing. Get out of my own way.
Yeah,
And it's fun. Like I like doing because it's
absolutely.
fun too. But yes, absolutely doing the spirit led lifestyle. Well, I don't even know if it's a lifestyle, it's like a vocation. It's just it's who we are. So I just
The
also
calling.
a
Absolutely.
calling, yes. And I just want to let those know that are listening to us today or watching us on YouTube, because this video will be up on YouTube, that it's okay if you're going through it and it's kind of like friends are falling off. It just means spirit is realigning you to bring the right people into your life. And I know that transition period is always hard. I find it challenging, but trust because every
It's a
medium,
sign of progression. It's a sign. Look at
yes,
it, sign of progression, right?
yes, everybody that's going on this spiritual journey, this happens to everybody. So no, you're not alone. And I love that. I wanted to talk about something because you have an offering, which is an egg cleanse. So can you share with people? I've
Yes, I
had
do.
it done. It's so cool. But can you share with people that have never heard of that and like, what? What is that?
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. So an egg cleanse, it's very popular throughout Latin America, but I have found out through doing shows and offering it, because I think I'm the only person that has ever offered it at a show, to be honest with you. At least here in the shows that we do in this region. Um, I get a ton of people coming up to me from all different cultures all around the world saying, my grandmother used to do that. Or there was this lady down the street in the little village that I grew up in that would do that. I've gotten people from Ukraine, and I've gotten people from different countries in Africa and even in Asia. So the premise of it is, or let me explain what it is first. So you take a real egg, a real chicken egg. So everybody sees me walk into the shows with my little green cooler, and there are my eggs, right? And you pass the egg over the body. There's some prayers that are said beforehand, and you are, in essence, using the egg to clean off the energy field of the person that's in front of you. And depending on the severity of whatever they might have picked up or whatever they're going through, um, there are different amounts of eggs that might be used. So some people it's just one, other people, are more than that. And um, Then afterwards, I keep the eggs until whoever's ready to leave from the show. And then they come and pick it up. I give them little cups so they can safely transport them. And then there's a particular way that you dispose of the egg. You take it now. This second step depends on who's doing it. So it's very popular on social media that you see people crack it and they read the egg. And that's fine. We're not really set up to do that at shows. And to be honest with you, as a psychic, I can usually pick up when I'm doing it what it is that's going on, right? I'll get some impressions. I find it's much more effective to take that egg to a crossroads and to just leave it at the crossroads and you walk away. Because the crossroads, the energy of the crossroads, the spirit of the crossroads, they're in charge of that liminal space of removing that from your life, the effects that whatever it is that we might have been in your energy field that were picked up from the egg. But at the core of that practice is a very, very ancient premise of a life for life. And what we're doing is we're using the life force in the egg that technically is alive. And if we would have put it under an incubator for however many days, 20 plus days, you might get a chick from it, right? It has the building blocks of life. We're using that life force to go in and kind of coax that stuff out so it's not bothering you anymore. And the egg is just one way of doing that. You'll see in the curanderismo tradition, people being hit with like herbs or like leaves. You might have seen that in videos online. Same thing. They're using the life force in the herb or in the plant to remove that stuff from you. People use fruits. I had somebody come up to me the other day. Where were they? I want to say it was somewhere in the South Pacific, an island. I don't remember. They use guinea pigs. They catch a guinea pig in the wild and they clean the person with the guinea pig, taking that stuff that they had picked up away. And it's very, very effective. Um, I probably get more return clients because of the egg cleanse than anything else. And I wish genuinely in my heart of hearts that more people tried it because it can be very, very impactful with things that are going on in your life.
I have had the egg cleanse done, I think like 2, 3 times. It is very cool. And then we would crack it and you can see different things in the eggs. And then you
Yeah, that's the reading of it. Yeah.
go online and see like what does it mean with the egg cleanse. But I've also heard stories that when you crack the eggs, there will be like actual objects in the eggs. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have. I've seen that's a, I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. Like that, there's a bit of ritual drama that's involved in some of this stuff. And you hear a lot about that in Latin America. So I've heard of people finding objects in there.
Yeah.
That hasn't been my personal experience of it. The only time that I remember there was a client that came here to my office. We did it. I gave him the egg to take home, or not to take home, but to crack as he was going home. And I got a call like 5 minutes later, and he's like, "Hey, just a question. Where did you get those eggs?" I think he had like two or three to crack. And I said, "Just a grocery store." "Why?" And he goes, "Because they were green when I cracked them." And I was like, "Oh, I should have taken a picture. I should have asked him to take a picture." But yeah, it depends on the practice. I've heard people finding like needles in it, or bugs in it. So, it just depends.
I think that's very cool.
Well, it depends on, it's a very elemental type of magic, let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
And I always, especially for the North American mind, it's a bit challenging. That's probably my number one question at shows. What is this? Really. And I'm like, well, you've heard of kitchen magic, right?
Mhm.
If you think of kind of the cunning traditions or the stuff that you hear in Europe, it was kind of like what they had at hand, right? This is the same thing. It's the same premise, using what was available.
I like that. I like how you said it, what it's life force, because I never thought of it that way. Like using the egg, because there's the potential for it to turn into a chick, or when they use the branches or the herbs, that's all came from something that's alive and growing. So I love that. So I am curious because we're talking about rituals within mediumship, or like when you do a mediumship reading, is there rituals involved, or you're just connecting to spirit and giving the reading? Are there any Latin American rituals that you bring
So
into
I
that?
No, no, no. Well, I would say that definitely I have a kind of daily ritual that I maintain myself. I try and stay in ritual purity. And I do ritual bathing. I spend about every morning, whether I have clients or not, it's about 45 minutes connecting with spirit. So that's very important to me, and that's become very much a ritual. But aside from that, no, there's nothing else that I do when I'm doing in mediumship reading. Now, there's other things that might be done, right? Like there's prayers and uh, kind of calling in of certain energies. So, for example, when I do a reading with somebody, I'm always calling in their ancestors because ancestor work is very important to the tradition that I practice and just the belief system that I have. But aside from that, I'm working with my guides in order to facilitate that transmission of messages.
Oh, that sounds so fascinating. So is there something within your tradition, folklore tradition, different, that is different than North American tradition? Like, is it the healing? Is it readings? Or it's just for you, it's all the same, no extra rituals
I'm
when
not
offering.
sure, actually. I think it depends, right? Like there's just everybody does things so differently, right? And as a medium, I don't know, you tell me what do you here? I'm switching the interview around to you, Maria. But like don't like I think that mediumship is such an internal experience. The majority of it is,
Yeah.
right? So we all have kind of different ways that we might call on spirit, how we feel spirit, how we get our messages, how we interpret those messages, whatever our intuitive language is with our spirit team, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if I can what others do in North America. Like I've gotten readings, but you don't see a lot of what that internal process is, right? And I don't question it.
Absolutely.
I just pretty much sit and wait. I'm like, everybody has their own way of calling upon spirit for what it is that I need to hear at that time. But um, for curanderismo, prayer is huge, 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 right? Um, so, definitely that's something there. I set space every single time, right? When I'm doing it, not because I can't do it without setting space. It's more, I'm very invested in the integrity of the message that's coming through, right? Can I do it in a car talking on a cell phone? Probably. I've done it in
Yeah.
the past. Is that the ideal way that I like to do it? No, right? Because for me, I'm honoring number one, my client is trusting me to do this for them, right? That's an honor in and of itself because
Yes.
there's lots of people out there, right? Um, Number two, I'm honoring my gift, right? Because as a curandera, the reason I say it's a calling is, my spirits have taught me since I was 4 years old, right? When that psychic told me, hey, you need to pay attention to this, I didn't go out and get lessons from somebody. My spirits were like, great, now you're ready to hear. This is what we have to say, and this is how we want you to work, right? And as my gift has grown and as it's evolved in the way I help people, my spirit team I owe everything to my spirit team and how they back me, how they train me, the lessons that they put in front of me, the themes that I seem to read depending on shows. I don't know if you see that, but it's kind of like,
Yes.
oh, three people showed up with a very similar story, right? I always find that really interesting. And I take that like, okay, what is my spirit team trying to tell me right now? Because there's probably going to be a message in there for me as well. So, um, I do ritual bathing beforehand again because of the integrity. When you are a medium, it's almost like all your windows and doors are open, right? And so I got to be really careful what I let in.
Sorry, because you've said ritual bathing a few times. So for those that are new to
Yeah,
this spiritual journey, can you just explain what that means for people that have never heard that term ritual bathing?
absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up because I love ritual bathing. So you're literally using the element of water. You might be adding herbs in it. You might be adding salt in it. In my tradition, we use cascarilla, which is crushed eggshells. It's used a lot in that, and it's for purification, right? It's for physically. It's not enough for you to just visualize that your energy is clean. We're using elements in order to make sure that you're cleansing and you're removing stuff from your spirit body. Now, sometimes people tell me, oh, I don't have a bathtub, I can't do it. And I was like, yeah, that's not how it has to be done, right? Ancient times, long ago, people didn't have bathtubs, but they had buckets or basins. And then you're just literally pouring it over you and letting the water run down you. And it's something that I very much practice, and not only practice, but I encourage my clients to practice. So at my booths at the shows or online in my product line, you'll see ritual bathing baths that I make and that I will recommend to clients depending on something that might come up in the reading. I do a ritual bath before a show, and I immediately, as soon as I get home, I'm doing a ritual bath afterwards because there's a lot of energies that are flying around in in those shows. You probably know that yourself, right? So it's all about maintaining the integrity. Like I'm a channel in
Mhm.
essence, right? And so if I'm not cleaning that channel, are you going to be getting the best information from me if I've had five people before you and whatever kind of lint that they might have left over is still stuck in my lint trap? That's not going to give you a great read.
Yeah. I find that so fascinating. For me, because I used to do like the salt baths, and then I remember at one time I used to put like different herbs in the salt bath, which was really cool. It smelled really nice. And now I don't know if it's just I'm like, thank you, spirit. And I've kind of trained my guides. And it's like you say, right? Because we're all different and we all work with our guides different. And I'm just like, thank you, spirit. Thank you, guides. And as soon as I say thank you, I'm disconnected, energetically disconnected. But that works for me. But that's why I wanted you so much on my podcast to share all these wonderful different cultures and rituals from around the world because I think it's so important to get rid of all that fear that people may have and be like, no, it's just what we do to clear our
Hmm.
aura. That's it. Like it's nothing, like nothing bad's
Yeah.
gonna happen to
Yep. That's
you
it.
if you don't get all the right herbs. Like you're still protected, you're good. So, and that's why I'm like so excited that you're here. So I am also wondering, oh, before I go there, the reason I was asking earlier about rituals and readings is
I love
because,
this, Maria. You did all your homework on me. This is great.
yeah, the reason I asked was from my own experience. I went to Portugal years ago and I went to see a medium, and it's the first and last medium I've ever seen in Portugal. And she had rituals and she had table offerings. So that's what I was curious if
Yeah, I
within
do too.
you have,
I
because
do too.
she had an altar just for children, uh and for specific, there was four altars with specific intentions, and one was for children. There was food offerings, I don't know if it was milk or juice, and there was candy, and she would put it out every night, and she had her prayers, and she was like the local, I don't know, the village witch healer, because she had all her herbs, which was
Yeah.
really, I just loved her. She was such a beautiful human being, such a beautiful person. And the next day, the chocolate would be eaten and the juice would be gone. So then I was like, where did it go? I think that's one of my things. Where does it go? I don't know where it goes, the food offerings. One day somebody will tell me on the
So I can
podcast.
tell you this. So for example, I do a lot of offerings to my ancestors. And when you see me at shows, you're going to see a little kind of on the go ritual that altar that I have where I sit and read. Right. So, um, for my ancestors, like every morning, I make them a coffee. That's a big thing for ancestors. They love coffee.
I've
And
heard
the
that.
irony is I don't drink coffee. So, my husband one day was like, why are you? And I'm like, it's for my ancestors. He's like, but you don't even drink it. I'm like, I know, but they do. They love it. So we're just going to keep it in house. Right. And so I put a little, it's probably like about that big. It's not a huge cup. I put it there. And by the time my ritual is done. So by the time my morning prayers, my meditation, my to-do list from spirit is received and I start to work on it, when I go turn off my candles in the variety of places that I light them in my room, my coffee cup, you'll see this much gone. You'll actually
Wow.
see the rim at the
Yeah.
top where it was served. And so there's no way that that's going to evaporate in 40 minutes or 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, our ancestors
That's
are
so-
real and they're there, right? And when you go see a medium, what are they tuning into? They're tuning into that, right?
So my next question, because apparently our ancestors are very hungry and very thirsty. Where does it go? Like it just is like, do they show you where it goes? Do you know where it goes? Because I've heard stories where people know where it
It
goes.
it it
So
evaporates.
that's so fascinating.
So I've never had food missing, right? I have served food to them, but I've never had food missing, right? And I don't keep it very long, right? Like even if I did keep it long, you can tell the difference when you've served your ancestors is because it usually won't go bad, right? After a
Oh,
while, if you leave food out, you're going to see some decay. You don't see that when you're offering and you're in good, how do I put it? The relationship is good with them,
yeah,
right? Um, so yeah,
that's
where does it
beautiful.
go? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
That's
I'm not
okay.
sure, but they seem to be very happy about it. My communication with them is open. Sometimes I'll be cooking something. They're like, we'd like some of that. And I was like, okay, I don't serve them food every day,
Yeah.
but coffee definitely and alcohol. They get rum. Yeah.
I've heard of the alcohol. I find this whole conversation so interesting. And then for those that are listening, just also remember how you can relate it to your life because when we're doing prayers, 9 times out of 10, we're lighting a candle and that's an offering to the spirit world, right? Or we're clearing with
Yeah.
sage as an
Yeah.
offering to the spirit world. Or we're playing the music to change the vibration of the room as an offering to the spirit world to align our energy. So we all do rituals. Like we're having fun with this because we're talking about food and I love food. But if you take a step back and you look at, for those that are readers, look at your own rituals because we all have them. We all have offerings in the sense of how are we aligning our energy with the spirit world and saying, thank you. Thank you for working with us.
Well, and I think also, I have this theory that for the last 200 years, or maybe 150, there's been a very concerted effort in the world to remove us from this ancestral wisdom that we carry, these techniques of offerings, right? People might be
Mhm.
like, oh, and I'm like, we're doing it already, right? Like, for example, what's a birthday cake? It's a form of candle magic, right? You're making a wish, you're lighting a candle, you're using those elements, you're blowing it out. That is the core of what candle magic is, right? And everyone's kind of like maybe misunderstanding or kind of put off with that. But I'm like, this was intrinsic to how the ancients lived and that your ancestors lived, right? A lot of going back to the A cleanse, a lot of people, when they hear a life for life, and I'm like, well, what do you think it is when you are eating a piece of chicken? The life
Mhm.
force of the chicken was sacrificed so that you could eat and you could be nourished and you could grow and, whether it's
Yeah.
sideways or upwards, but so that you could sustain yourself and live, right? And so this is all intrinsically woven into our culture. In many different cultures, I would say all cultures, we are just kind of devoid of it now. We're so separated from it. It's almost to the extent of thinking that the chicken comes from the grocery store and
Yeah.
that it wasn't alive and fed and grown and maintained and all that stuff.
And I love this conversation that we're having because I think it is important to talk about where did we come from because every single culture we all have our own way of respecting our loved ones, the spirit, the ancestors. If you look at Mexicans and honoring those that have crossed
It's
over.
actually Day of the Dead.
Oh, Day of the Dead, sorry.
It's Day of the Dead. Yeah.
Thank you. But just how they celebrate our loved ones that crossed over. And then if you go to Portugal, it's Remembrance Day, where everybody comes in and we have our own rituals. And then me being Catholic, I grew up with my own rituals. And then growing up, it was like, are you going to offer prayers? Offering the prayers. So it's like,
Yeah.
if we take a step back and just look at
Yeah,
our
but
own
in the
life,
church they offer
the
yeah, in
incense,
church they offer incense, right? I grew up Catholic as well, right? And
yeah,
what is the Eucharist if it's not an offering of the body and
yeah,
blood of Christ? Right there,
yeah.
you have a sacrifice in that too, right? So, you know, there's a lot of propaganda that unfortunately very much mars these practices in just misinformation.
There's a lot of beautiful practices out there. And it's just this why, like, I love to travel. I love having different people from around the world on my podcast because love to learn about their culture, their rituals. And I think that's important for all of us. And then, two, my intention with this podcast is to get rid of that fear because I feel like if we break down the language, we break down, okay, so we have rituals. We're like, what do they really mean? It's just gratitude and saying thank you to spirit world, thank you to God, thank you to the creator, to the divine, to the goddess, feminine, whatever you want to call it. Just a gratitude and do what works for you because everybody's different. Like you mentioned earlier, all the mediums, we all work completely different, but ethically, your intention should be do no harm and for the highest healing of the person before.
Depends on who you're talking about, right? I agree 100%.
Yeah.
That's how my practice works, but we all
Yes.
know that they're not all. So,
That's the way we
yeah.
work is rule number one, do no harm to nobody because people that come to you for readings are in a vulnerable space, right? Because that's why they're seeking out the help that they're seeking and they're finding the medium, the healer that works right for them. I also wanted to talk about you have, is it fireside chats? Like your offerings? Because I was like on your website, I was like, oh, she's got really cool offerings. So can you share what that is for people in case they're interested?
Yeah, so fireside chats, they're coming back second Monday of the month starting in July. It's an hour, it's completely free, it's done over Zoom. But in essence, what they're doing is the purpose of them is to create an environment where we set a topic and it's whoever shows up. We're going to just kind of have a roundtable discussion of it. Think about when you would sit in front of a fire when you were little, if you had the opportunity to go camping or even the fire pit outside. There's a magic that happens there, right? It might be a little bit dark. You might be a little bit kind of like, the mood has been set. And it's just this free flowing conversation because I very much want to create a support system for people because, again, the spiritual path is a lonely one. And as exciting as it is, and as much as you might feel connected and your spiritual progression is happening and you're seeing these magical changes in your life, a lot of times you don't have people to share that with, right? And so the fireside chat is all about creating an opportunity for my community to come together. And it's no pressure. It's kind of like you sign up, you get the email, that's it, right? Nothing is trying to be sold to you. It's just an opportunity for different topics to be discussed with other spiritual people. You did your homework. I love it. Thanks, Maria.
You're welcome, because I find it interesting. And again, it's like getting rid of the fear. So people go to your fireside chats. And I do remember even as a little kid with my grandmother in her like very old home in the middle of the village. And at nighttime, the family gathers around the fire. That's part of history. We don't have heat like in my village. I think they just got heat a few years ago, but even my parents' house don't have doesn't have heat out in Portugal. My grandmother's certainly didn't have heat. So it was the fire that heated the homes in the winter. And the family would gather around the fire
Right.
at night to have tea, coffee, but to talk about and to share. Because I remember the sharing of the stories of the ancestors growing up. And I heard a lot of
Yeah.
mediumship stories
Yeah.
growing up, and my mom would tell me, she's like, "Can you believe it? Do you think this is true?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I have mediums in my family." But I don't know that she she's like on board with that word.
Little did you know, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm very conscious of, people's budgets, right? And so not everybody might be able to afford a session with me one-on-one. So I want to create opportunities where people might have questions, right? And finances aren't what are kind of pushing that forward. So I try and create a community at the end of the day. It's really what I'm trying to build.
I think that's beautiful. And yeah, for those listening, I will have her website up, and within her website, she has the links in there. So just go look within her website so you can find all of her offerings. I want to say thank you so much for spending the time with us today. I've learned so much from you, and I hope our listeners and viewers have also learned. And if you guys are more curious, because I find asking questions is so empowering because you don't know what you don't know. And then also remembering if it doesn't resonate for you, that's okay too. Take what fits and leave what doesn't.
Yeah.
Because even I know within my mediumship journey, and I've had mentors and I'll have conversations with like, I don't know if that fits right with me. And then other stuff's like, yeah, that fits right. So trust your intuition because you do have a part on your website where it's all about trusting your intuition.
Absolutely. And actually, that's a workshop that I have coming up. The 9th of June, I have a free webinar on the two important things to be doing to be able to culture intuition, whether you're a medium or not, right? This is a muscle that I think every person out there is capable of developing. Maybe not to the extent of doing to the public, but at least for you able to hear your own internal voice, right? That voice within. So yeah, it's a free webinar on the 9th of June. You can sign up on my website. And then I have an in-person workshop at the end of the month on the 29th here in Brampton. It's a full day workshop. That's my level 1. And then level 2 is in August as well, and it's in person. So it's all about building that relationship, understanding what your intuitive language is, understanding what are some of the things that could be blocking it, right? Because a lot of people find that their intuition can be hit and miss, right? They're like great at maybe predicting traffic patterns, but not finding the right partner. And why
Yeah.
is my intuition not working that way? And so we actually address some of those things in the workshop.
Oh, I love that. Like you said, your intuition language, how does it work for you and learning to trust it? Because the more you trust it, the stronger it gets. It's a muscle. And then also don't compare yourself to the next person because we're also different and we're also unique on our own journey. Because I think that's important. Because that, I feel like as I talk to people, once they get into that, but they're over there and I'm only here, once they do that comparison thing, they kind of stop themselves on their spiritual journey. So we're here, and I feel like you are here too, to encourage you to trust spirit, trust those intuitive hits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think honestly, my firm belief is that the world would be a better place if everybody was capable of starting to listen to their intuition on a regular basis. I think COVID is a perfect example of people, even if it's temporarily, being shut away, the external stimuli being removed, and hearing that internal voice for the very first time. And is it uncomfortable? Yeah. That any medium that has started to develop this will tell you it's not always a smooth ride, right? But are you better off for it in the long run? Absolutely.
I will say my life has been very challenging at times because you get the zigzags, right? Like you grow, then you plateau, then it zigzags and you grow, but I would never change a thing. I'm so grateful for every opportunity I've had, every friendship, everything. Every single person that has come into my life has been a gift. Every challenge within my life has been a gift because it's you learn wisdom,
Yeah.
right? With each thing. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here, Carolina. I have so enjoyed our conversation. I feel like if we could be on here for 10 hours, we probably would. And we think we've been talking for 5 minutes, to be quite honest.
Second show. We can do a second show, Maria. Thank you. Thank you for having
Absolutely.
me.
I would love to have you back. All right. Goodbye, everybody. And thank you for listening.